Hey there and welcome to Matt's Garage. So today I'm going to be replacing the inner tie rod end on my '05 PT Cruiser. This is a turbocharged convertible, but it shouldn't make any difference. So first step, we're going to get the car jacked up, get the wheel off, and we got to get the outer tie rod end off. I'm not going to cover that in too much depth because I have a video on that as well. I'll link in the description. Now in this case I actually have my angle grinder here because the reason I'm having to change this is the outer tie rod end is seized on and I can't adjust the alignment and I can't remove the outer tie rod end, and this tool that I need to remove the inner tie rod end won't fit over the outer one, so I'm going to have to slice it off with this first. So I'm just going to jack under the rear control arm mount bolt. You can see what I mean by the rear control arm mount. Right there, just under that bolt head, is a really safe place to jack. You see, there's a big one there. There's another big one right under my jack. Do not jack back here, under this area. Everybody seems to jack under there and they dent it up. That's called the torque box. You don't jack there. It's okay to jack or block under the factory pinch weld, right under there. Under that lip, but if it's really rusty I wouldn't. Like you can see, there's some rust starting here on this car, so some of these cars get pretty rusty here. This is probably the safest place to jack on one of these cars. So I do have the emergency brake set, and I also put some wheel chocks on the other side of the car. I highly recommend a jack stand or some blocking while you do this. I'm just going to take the wheel off and stick it under the car. So here is the part we're actually changing, the inner tie rod end. This is the outer tie rod end. So this one attaches right into the steering rack. We'll have to remove this rubber boot in here to access it. And there's a 19mm bolt on the outer tie rod end we'll have to remove and pop that off. You can see I actually bent this trying to remove this. It's so seized on there. I was able to get the jam nut backed off, which is 22mm, but I wasn't able to get the outer tie rod off. So you can see I have a new inner tie rod there in the packaging, and you can see it's got like a stud on the end that threads into the steering rack, but because it's so deep in there, as you can see, you need this tool to reach in there and access it. And you can see it's got a drive on there, a 1/2 inch drive, and then it has this insert. That's what grips on it. You can see right there, it grips on the end of it. There's just a couple flat areas, so you pretty well need one of these special tools. You can probably rent one at your local auto parts store, or you can buy one on Amazon or whatever. I actually borrowed this off of a friend, so big thanks to you, John, if you're watching. And there I just have this used tie rod end actually off my old Neon to go on there. I had just put that back together loosely in case I had to move the car in the driveway. So now I actually have to cut this off. You can see there's no way that's going over the outer tie rod there. If you are struggling to remove your outer tie rod end from here, from the taper, what you want to get is one of these tools. And this tool, when this is installed, goes in here like this. And you can see when you tighten this bolt, it'll press that stud up through, and it'll pop it out without wrecking the boot or anything. I normally just give them a good smack right there, but you don't want to smack it too much and mushroom it over, and then you'll wreck the part. I had a kitty come to visit me while I was working. You're such a sweet kitty cat. So yeah, it was stuck in the threads here. There was no way I could get it out. I tried everything: heat, oil, brute force. It looks like just a spring clamp on the front of the boot here And then the back of the boot, I believe it has one of those non-reusable ones with the fold-over tab on it. You have to bend, but this first one here, I can just get with a pair of pliers. Now I have to get the inside one loose, which I think a little flat blade screwdriver will be the ticket for that. As you can see, I had to cut that again to cut that lock nut off. I wasn't really thinking. It's kind of hard to get back here enough to cut it off, but you do have to, of course, have that off so that the boot will slide out over. So I did get that inner clip off. I'll show you how that works when I get it out. And there's also a vent tube on the lower part that has another little spring clamp, so I'll show you that. But I actually just pulled that loose. I didn't bother releasing the clamp, and now I'll take the clamp off now that I have the boot off, slide it back onto the metal vent tube that runs across to the other side of the rack for the displaced air when you steer hard over to hard over. And so then I'll just have to do up that spring clamp when I put it back together. Just had those on there to hold it steady. I'll get that spring clamp out of there. See, that's the outer spring clamp from the boot, just like on a small hose. And this is just so dirty, I'm having trouble. I'll try putting a little oil on there to lube that up. So there is what I mean. It's got that little spring clamp on the bottom here. And so now that it's off, we'll just see it's like a little feel line spring clamp. So we'll go ahead and we'll put that back on. There's a metal tube just underneath there, so you slide that back over so that when you slide this back into place and push the tube up into it, then you'll be able to slide this down the tube and put it back over the rubber. You'll have to squeeze it with pliers. And then there's this clamp, which is supposed to be non-reusable because you crimp it here. That's how they work to tighten them, and you need a special tool for that. So I'm just going to use a regular hose clamp when I put it back. Not really proper, but I don't have one of these or the tool to install them. They hook over that little tab and it's bent over. So to release these, what I do is I first come on top and release the tab. I just push it back, and then you can just lift this up off of it, and that releases it, and then you can pull that right off of there. So now we are ready to actually remove our inner tie rod end, which is not worn. We're just removing it because the outer one was seized on there. If it is worn, the best way to check that is to just have your car jacked up on this corner, and then just grab your wheel and rock your wheel back and forth basically, and check for play there. If you feel play, confirm by putting your hand around the outer tie rod joint that it's not play in the outer one. If there's no play in the outer one, then it's probably play in the inner one. Once you get it apart here, you can sort of feel by moving it around. This one's nice and tight, there's no play. So now we need to get that on there over the flat spots. So here we are actually a couple days later, because it got dark on me and then the wind was really bad the next day, so I just covered up the area with that bag, and you can see I actually extended that out. I turned the steering hard over, so that's something you can do to get better access. And then there didn't turn out to be a flat spot on there to grip that with the tool I have. So I'll show you what I did here. I just got to put the camera down and I'll show you how I dealt with that. So I just got a really good pair of vice grips, and you can see I already got it loose, but I'm showing you how I gripped it. You can see I have them really tight. I got them on there like that. And then I got this nice long adjustable wrench. I got it on the vice grips like that. That's how I broke it loose. It was actually really, really tight. Just like everything seems to be on this car. Seems to be about 3 times as tight as it should be. And then you just unscrew this. And there's that spacer on there. That's like a steering stop. So I just got a new one here. Just try not to get any dirt in it is all. You can see this one does have flat spots on it for my tool to go on. And we'll just put that spacer on there. And then it just threads in. You can see it's already packed with grease in the joint there. So now just make sure that's really clean. You get that in there on that flat spot. I put my little clamp on that vent line now. I'm just going to use this regular worm gear hose clamp to clamp that outer boot. So I'll get that. Well, that will slide over anytime, so I'll get that on there. Just got to get this jam nut off. So there we go. I was just careful and I was able to line up the vent tube and push it all on as one. So I just got to do up my clamps now, and that part of the job is done. So I'll probably have to turn the steering back to straight to get that lined up before I put that clamp on, but I'm just going to get it slid on before I forget about it, because I can't put it on over the jam nut. Now we have our new used tie rod, donated from our old Neon. It's in good shape still. Okay, well you can see I got that all on, and I'm just going to assemble it and check the alignment with some masking tape here. Just line it up with the rear wheels. You can see I'm doing all this just in my parents' driveway here, so just don't forget to put this little shield on here. This really protects your tie rod from getting grit in it and stuff, so put that on and tighten that nut down and we're good to go. So if you're doing this at home and you're not competent in doing a wheel alignment yourself, you'll have to go get a wheel alignment done later. I do my own at home with masking tape, and I have a video on doing that. I'll link up in the description here. That's pretty well going to conclude this video on changing the inner tie rod end. Just make sure you get all those clamps back on tight and check your alignment and you're good to go. Thanks a lot for watching Matt's Garage. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have yourself a great day.